Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q4 FY21 earnings conference call of Manappuram Finance, hosted by Antique Stock Broking. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Nidhi Shah from Antique Stock Broking. Thank you, and over to you.
Good evening, everyone. We have with us the entire management team of Manappuram Finance, led by Mr. V.P. Nandakumar. Without further ado, I would now like to hand over to Mr. Nandakumar for the opening comments. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Manappuram Finance Q4 FY21 conference call. We hope that all of you are safe and healthy along with your family and friends. The second wave has cast a dark shadow on India, its people, its economy, business and industry. Hopefully, the worst is behind us as things improve from here on. Apart from this sober backdrop, let me turn to our fourth quarter results and the full year performance highlights. As you know, gold loans have the dominant share in our company's business mix. About 70% of our loan book is against gold. The industry faced several challenges in the past 12 months, such as lockdowns and disruptions to the economic activity, and a slowdown in consumption. However, I am glad to report that Manappuram Finance has done quite well under these circumstances. For the full year, our gold loan AUM grew by 12%, in line with our guidance of 10 to 15% annual growth. The price of gold has peaked in August last year. Thereafter, by the end of the fiscal year, the prices have corrected by 21%, with a 12% fall taking place in Q4 alone. That affected the gold loan business, and some customers faced challenges in renewing their loans, leading to a higher auction. At the same time, the fact that we are predominantly into short-term gold loans worked in our favor, as we carry the price risk only for 5 to 6 months against the industry benchmark of 15 to 16 months. This allows us to recognize the stress early and initiate recovery, thereby protecting margins. Going forward, we expect higher demand, especially from micro and small enterprises, as they need capital to get back on their feet. Some key performance highlights for Q4 and the full year FY 2021 are: consolidated AUM at 27,224 crores is up by 7.9% year on year, but declined by 1.5% quarter on quarter. While gold loan AUM grew by 12.4% year-on-year. The Q-on-Q growth was negative at 5.6% due to the fall in gold prices and higher auctions. Our average LTV is at 71%. Our gold holdings stood at 65.33 tons. The tonnage degrowth during the quarter was 2.85 tons, of which 1 ton was auctioned quantity. The microfinance subsidiary, Ashirvad Microfinance, ended the year with an AUM of 5,985 crores, a growth of 8.8% on a full year basis and 11.7% over the preceding quarter. Given the stress in the industry, we continue to prioritize asset quality over AUM growth. Ashirvad enjoys amongst the lowest operating expenses at 5%. Going forward, we expect some short-term pain in microfinance asset quality. However, based on our experience in the past episodes of stress, we are positive of the outlook. We believe that within the microfinance sector, companies with lower borrowing costs, hence lower lending rates also, would be better placed as they attract more creditworthy customers by natural selection. Our commercial vehicle business saw a higher GNPAs due to lockdowns. However, it came down to 5% at the end of the year. Our housing loan portfolio is relatively small and has been steady in terms of asset quality, while reporting moderate growth in business. On the liquidity front, we are placed comfortably and we continue to receive funds from all routes at competitive rates. The incremental cost of fund in Q4 was 7.95%. The overall cost of fund for the full year was at 9.1%. We do not expect any funding challenges to come in the way of our growth plans, and we are comfortably placed with our AUM, which we monitor closely. Finally, we are reporting a consolidated quarterly net profit of 468 crores for Q4 FY21 and 1,725 crores for FY21, which is our highest full year net profit ever. Thank you. Now over to our CFO, Mrs. Bindu A.L., for a detailed look at the numbers.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks to all our stakeholders for attending this quarterly update call. The year FY21 redefined the way in which we all think and live. We have accommodated once-in-a-lifetime crisis to strengthen and revamp our balance sheet and presented a healthy performance. Our purpose has helped us to stay strong despite the challenges in the external environment. In terms of collection efficiency and disbursement trends, in most loan segments are close to pre-COVID levels. However, the slippages for the system would remain elevated for the near term. The recent rise in COVID cases remain a key monitorable. Now coming to the operational overview, we are carrying surplus liquidity across all businesses. Cash and cash equivalents on hand was rupees 2,548 crore and undrawn bank lines was rupees 7,364 crore. Our CP exposure has come down to 6.5% against 11% a year ago. In the standalone entity, our ALM position has strengthened significantly. Borrowing cost declined sequentially by 18 basis points to 8.77% despite the significant extension in average duration of borrowings. Our consolidated AUM for Q4 was rupees 27,224 crore, up by 7.9% YOY and down by 1.5% Q on Q. The YOY growth was led largely by gold loans. Consolidated profit after tax was rupees 1,725 crore for FY21, up by 16.5% YOY. Whereas the PAT for Q4 was rupees 468 crore, grew by 17.6% YOY and down by 3.1% Q on Q. ROE on a consolidated basis was 26.4% and ROA was 6% for the quarter. Talking about the gold loan business, which constitutes 70% of consolidated AUM, the AUM increased by 12.4% YOY and down by 5.6% Q on Q. Gold holdings stood at 65 tons. During the quarter, we were able to add 3 lakh new customers and collateral of nearly 4 tons of gold. Gold loan average ticket size and average duration was rupees 44,600 and 100 days respectively. Total number of gold loan customers stood at 25.94 lakhs and the gold loan book at rupees 19,077 crore. Auctions during the quarter were rupees 404 crore. The sequential decline in AUM was largely on account of significant decline in gold prices by 12% during the quarter and 21% from Q2 disbursement level, and the disbursement number was rupees 93,000 crore, and this portfolio matured in Q4, which led to auction of collateral as well as higher than normal redemptions. As you would note, the short tenor of our gold loan product, which is 3 months, on average results in early recognition of NPAs compared to other players in the market who offer longer tenor gold loans. The company follows a policy of regular auctions in case of delinquencies. We are happy to inform you that we have not had any significant credit losses despite the sharp fall in gold prices given our regular auction policy. Our weighted average LTV stands at rupees 2,922 per gram or 71% of the gold price as on 31st March 2021. Our interest accrued was rupees 716 crore, 3.8% of gold loan AUM. Gold loan disbursements at rupees 44,630 crore compared to rupees 57,445 crore in Q3 FY21. Online book accounts for 54% of the total gold loan book. Coming to MFI business, Ashirwad MFI AUM stands at rupees 5,985 crore, up by 11.7% Q on Q and 8.8% YOY, and this business reported a profit of rupees 4.1 crore in Q4 FY21 compared to rupees 17.8 crore in Q3 FY21. Our collection efficiency from MFI business was at 101% in March, and disbursements during the quarter was rupees 1,767 crore. Loan loss provisions at 5.71% of closing AUM. The company has a capital adequacy ratio of 23.3%. Coming to the vehicle finance business, we have reported an AUM of rupees 1,053 crore, which is up by 6.5% Q on Q and down by 21% YOY. Collection efficiency was 103% and 111% in Feb and March respectively. The home loans business had a total loan book of 666 crore, which is up by 5.2% Q on Q It operates from 47 branches and reported a profit of rupees 5.3 crore during Q4 FY21. Collection efficiency was 95% and 101% in Feb and March. Collection efficiency for the quarter was 96% compared with 94 in Q3 FY21. Loans to NBFCs at rupees 183 crore and loan to SME and others at rupees 261 crore. Provisions and write-offs for the standalone entity during the quarter stood at rupees 12 crore compared to rupees 29 crore in Q3 FY21. We have provided additional provision of rupees 25 crore due to COVID-19. Our GNPA is at 1.92% as compared to 1.26% at the end of Q3 FY21. The board declared an interim dividend of 75 paisa on improved performance. Our capital position is strong and the company is well capitalized with a capital adequacy ratio of 28.9%. Company's consolidated net worth stands at rupees 7,307 crore. The book value stood at rupees 86.3. Thank you. Now we can go for the Q&A session.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Dhaval Gada from DSP. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on decent performance in a pandemic year, reporting 26% ROE. I had 3 questions. First is related to the collection and billing efficiency. So you provided collection efficiency for some of the segments in February and March. If you could provide the billing efficiency for the 3 months and also the Jan numbers for vehicle and HSC, that would be useful. So that is question number 1. The second question is related to the MFI, where you talked about that in the near term you expect some pain. And I was looking at the PAR data, just trying to understand, in terms of coverage, what is the level of excess provision that you want to carry going into the first half of next financial year, given that the PAR data is still in double digit as we speak. So that is just your thoughts on what kind of pain can come and how much provisioning you think is required to address the issue. And the last question is related to borrowings. Overall 8.8% borrowing, cost of borrowing. Just trying to understand, when should we start seeing the benefit of a lower rate? I know that you've been increasing the tenor, but is there a scope for seeing some benefit in FY22? So some thoughts around that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Senthil and Rajesh sir can talk on the collection efficiency.
Yeah. Mr. Ajia, can you talk on collection efficiency? Mr. Ajia?
Good evening. The collection efficiency for microfinance business increased from 99% in January to 100% in February to 101% in March. And as you notice this, from April again we have this scare of second wave. So there is a certain amount of dip in April, but it is much better than what we had witnessed last year. And going forward, we are in a much better position to address this based on the experience we have had in the last 12 months. On the provisioning question which you had asked, we had made a provision of 5.7% on the AUM, about 341 crores based on the Ind AS requirement, ECL requirements of Ind AS. And this was well-assessed provision to take care of our losses. However, while making this provision, while we had taken about 30 crores of provisions towards the second wave, we still have to assess the impact of the second wave of this. But I would say that considering all that and considering the higher AUM and higher AUM growth we are going to witness this year, the performance of the company, including all the provisions that may come during the year, will be much better than the current year.
What was the dip in April? Sir, sorry, I missed that. You said there was a dip in April. What was the dip?
Yeah, in April, because, states like Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh announced right in the beginning lockdown. We are in the region of 90. It is not very less, but the region of 90. From 101, it came down about 78%.
78.
Yeah, good evening. This is Senthil here from Vehicle Finance. In terms of Vehicle Finance, our collection efficiency was 106% in the month of Jan, which increased to, I think, which was stable in the month of February around 105%. And in the March, it increased to 113%. Current bucket collections have been hovering around 90% in the month of March. We have both commercial vehicle and the two-wheeler portfolio, but I think the collections have been similar. The percentages have been more or less similar in both the portfolios.
On the borrowing cost, as you know, during the quarter, there was a decline in the portfolio and the opportunity for additional availments was less. And that is the reason the surplus liquidity, we were repaying the short-term maturities, mostly CPs has come down. So when we start utilizing additional limits with the current incremental cost of borrowing, the benefits will be better.
Understood. And on the first question, the question related to write-offs, MFI write-offs, any comments on that?
What is the question on the write-off?
Sorry, how much is the write-off during the year, and what's the kind of impact you see in the second wave?
The write-off was 145 crores during the year. And it is normally, we have provisions on the write-off, and the write-offs, we have a policy that anything which is over 180 days and which we feel has not been paid is written off, and we follow the same policy. So many times the write-off moves from the provisioning. It is not a direct thing which comes to the write-off. So after that, we still have the provisioning in the balance sheet. We have charged about 300 crores for the year.
Understood. I'll come back in the queue, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shweta Daftar from PL India. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So a couple of questions. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. A couple of questions. So first one is, we have mentioned on slide 23 the reasons for tonnage decline. So I just wanted to know if auctions-related decline was pretty sizable. Then what was the profile of these defaulting customers? Secondly, ma'am, you mentioned that there were almost 3 lakh addition of customers for this particular quarter. So is it that the redemptions have been higher than the new collateral which came through these customers, and therefore that was also the key reason why the tonnage declined? So that is question number one. Question number two, this is related to the MFI. So in the MFI, if you look at zero DPD par, so quarter on quarter there has not been much of improvement. So barely from 18%, it's down to 16%. And so in the light of second COVID wave, how do you believe this zero DPD par will pan out? And lastly, ma'am, I just wanted to know the interest rate on the recent ECB raise of $15 million for Asirvad Microfinance. Yeah, that's from my side.
So the reason for the gold loan reduction is, see, one, the price is down. So when the reset is happening, it will be at a lower LTV. The second is, of course, the cash flow of these customers, rural, semi-urban customers. The impact is there. So our gold loan is of a 3-month, gold loan product is 3 months. So in the next 3 months, unless they redeem it or renew that at the new LTV, they will not be able to, it will be auctioned. So what they do, if their cash flow is very much stressed, either they sell it as a scrap on their own or leave it to the company to sell, so through auction. So we had an auction of around 1,000 ton, 1 ton this year. It was compared to normal situation. This 1 ton auction across all our branches is very high. So the reason is their cash flow was not comfortable. That's the reason. So the profile, you ask the profile. Yes, most of them are daily wage earners or petty businessmen or small-time entrepreneurs, self-employed people, farmers, small farmers. This is the typical profile of our customers.
Just to add to that, you would remember Q2 we had nearly 1 lakh crore disbursement, and the portfolio growth was also good. For us, as majority of the portfolio under 3-month scheme, this portfolio will mature in Q4. So these disbursements happened at the peak price. From the peak price, there was almost 21% price fall if we compare the time of disbursement and the maturity. So because of the cash flow issues, the amount of the principal, part payment of principal was also a concern for the customers, and that resulted into higher redemption at the time of maturity. Majority of the customers redeemed, and another 400 crores we auctioned. So these are the reasons. So we have given the details in slide number 23. And on the ECB pricing, Rajesh sir, and the Ashirvad second wave.
Yeah. On this zero DPD, ma'am, the question is on the not a fast declining ratio. See, in Q2 we had about 21%, and then it came down to 17% in 17.4 in Q3, and as of March it is 15.74%. What happens in microfinance, business unlike other businesses, once a person enters 0 to 30, it is extremely difficult for them to keep paying 2 installments at one time to bring it back to normalcy. So the aim is more or less, the company's policy is to make sure they continue to pay that one particular installment so that they don't move to the next bucket. So the focus is retaining that particular bucket itself, at the same stage. So that's why you're not seeing a major drop, but that is not a big concern for us because we know that ultimately the tail gets extended and the payment is made. Addressing the second wave, unlike the first wave where we were totally caught unawares and we couldn't do anything for nearly 4 to 5 months because of the moratorium given. Here the resolution, RBI has come out with the guidelines on May 5th itself for a resolution framework which a company can do based on the stressed geographies. And the company is working on it. By end of May, we will be in a position to address any increases in this 0 to 30 bucket because of this new second wave. And we are in a much better position to address this. We are very confident that this ratio will, as the AUM also keeps growing. The second point was the AUM growth is not good that much in the FY21. And as the AUM keeps growing, all these ratios will look much better for us. And I'm sure that by in the coming quarter, this ratios will also show a declining trend. On the ECB, we have done this recent transaction about 9.7%, and it's again a landmark. We did one last year, and this is again a landmark transaction considering the state of the MFI space and the confidence the lenders have in this space, and also the company and the group. So we feel it is a very significant transaction. Although the quantum is not very large, we felt that it's something which we should talk about.
Sure, sir. I'll come back in the queue. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants, request you to please limit your questions to 2 per participant. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Pratik Agrawal from ASK Investment Managers Limited. Please go ahead.
Hi. First I thought the presentation that you have brought out is pretty interesting. So thumbs up to that. A lot of additional data has been provided. 2 questions unrelated to the performance of the quarter, which I thought was good in the context of times. One, given the valuation, why do dividends and not buyback? I understand that there is some regulatory norms on buybacks by financials, but if you can pay out dividends, then to the extent of dividends, you should be allowed to do a buyback. That was the first question.
So the buyback, you are aware about the regulatory challenges.
Yeah, I am aware there is a leverage thing which is there, but I really think that the regulator has a larger buyback in mind when they put that limit. The point is, if dividends are allowed and it is money going out of the company, then with that money, buyback should be allowed.
Yeah. So, see, we are very conservative as far as our dividend policy is concerned. Yeah, with the improved performance, we have increased our dividend also by 10 paise during this quarter compared to the previous quarter.
I was more on, if you would explore the regulator for allowing you to buy back rather than, dividend for the same amount. That was the query. Did you touch base with the regulator for buybacks? No.
See, there are regulatory guidelines in this regard. Yeah.
Okay. The second question was, I was looking at microfinance guidelines, and in the guidelines it says, correct me if I'm wrong, but 85% of a microfinance NBFC has to be unsecured small ticket loan, what we understand as microfinance. But 15% of the book can be anything else, and there is no cap on interest rates also. If that is right, can you use Ashirvad to also, diversify its activity into other high yield spaces, maybe including gold as well?
Yes, sir. We had already started that in our portfolio of 5,985 crores. We have about 45 crores of other assets, about 42 crores of SME assets completely secured, and 2.5 crores of gold assets. And as we speak, this year we are going to have a much larger portfolio of gold assets using the knowledge and know-how of the parent company. We also want to develop gold loan businesses in areas where they are not currently present and where Ashirvad is present. And we are completely wanting to utilize this 15%, as you rightly said.
So, just an associated thing, can you securitize this 15%, securitize stroke, assign this 15%, because then it can become a continuous business?
We can do that.
So then it can be a pretty large opportunity.
It will be a continuous business. Yes, you're right. That's it.
Yeah, I'll come back in the queue. I have one more small question.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shubhranshu Mishra from Systematix. Please go ahead.
Hi, couple of questions. The first one is, we're carrying a huge amount of liquidity on our balance sheet. As the bond markets are thawed and banks are also lending at lower rates. So why are we carrying such a huge amount of cash on our balance sheet? Given the fact that a large portion, 70% of our consolidated is gold loans, which is fairly liquid in itself. That's the first question. Second is, what is the quantum of write-off that we have done in the standalone book, and how much of that is from the vehicle finance loans? And what's the kind of provision that we are carrying on the standalone book? These are the two questions. And the third question, it's actually a data keeping question. What is the proportion of the gold loan AUM which is more than 1 lakh ticket size?
Okay. So our business is a cash-oriented business, so all branches should have some retention amount. So that is one reason for cash. And as you are aware, this HQLA maintenance also increasing the cash balance. And on an average, we will be maintaining another 15 or 20 days repayments in cash. So the quarterly numbers are not the average numbers, and quarter end, there will be some pressure for availment, and that is the reason quarterly numbers may be high, but this is not the average which we are maintaining during the quarter. And on the provisions, in the standalone entity, we are holding nearly 200 crore provision. So that is 104 crore for gold loan and another 100 crore for non-gold businesses. Vehicle finance is holding nearly 63 crore provision in that 100 crore. And the last thing is on the, what is the last question, Shubhranshu? Proportion of?
Ticket size more than 1 lakh, what is the proportion of AUM?
So outstanding, it is 50%. 41%.
41% is more than 1 lakh.
No. In terms of loan outstanding, 62% is more than 1 lakh.
Thank you.
In terms of loan outstanding. In the case of customers, it is 20%.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Siran Engineer from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question. Firstly, on the gold loan business, I just want to understand, now that the LTV arbitrage is over between banks and NBFCs, how are you seeing competition shape up over the last couple of months? And also, what percentage of customers roll over their loans when their tenure ends?
So, the competition, yes, you said that 90% the LTV permitted to the banks. That period is over as on the last day of the last quarter. So there is a good opportunity for the growth in the AUM. Now the situation is almost half of our branches are not able to work because of the lockdown. I think when the branches are open, which we are hopeful of towards the end of this month, all the branches, yes, the growth opportunities would be good. Yes, the competition from the banks in that front of LTV has definitely come down. And the rollover percentage, 80% of the customers, 80% rollover is there. When the rollover means when they roll over, they bring this to the current ruling LTV.
Correct.
And they pay interest up to that date.
Got it. And so I was just seeing, our performance in the fourth quarter in the gold loan business compared to some of the banks was a bit tepid. Now, we had that issue in Maharashtra where our branches were shut in the third quarter. Did that also continue in the fourth quarter, leading to this tepid growth performance?
No, that was over during the last quarter itself. See, one thing which has to be understood here is, our price risk management is better than the industry as such. We are a short-term lender, 3-month lender, whereas the industry in general is a 1-year lender. So the price, we have seen a price decline from the peak to the lowest level. Last quarter was around 21%. So in such a situation, we feel like a 3-month product is always safer, and the customer has the option to roll it over at the prevailing LTV. So our risk management practices, we believe that is better.
Got it. And just one last clarification from Mr. Raja Vaidyanathan. I didn't hear correctly. The collection efficiency in MFI was 78% or 98% in April? And what was it in May?
No, the collection efficiency dropped by 7-8%, I said.
Oh, dropped by 7-8%?
Yeah.
From that 101%?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
And is that a similar level in May? Because I'm guessing May would see a larger decline.
Yeah, May was as of yesterday, it was, the decline was much more than that. That is understandable because the 90% of the country branches went into a lockdown. But as I said, the customer contact is being maintained, and all of the customers are saying that they have cash to pay, and it is only the logistics which is preventing them to pay. So we are expecting a clear bounce back in June.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much for answering my questions. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prashant Sridhar from SBI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question, sir. Just on the MFI bit, if you get some more color on, say, disbursements policy, what would be the policy on disbursements to existing customers or 0+, and what proportion that would be of our total disbursements in Q4. And maybe if you could just touch upon the collection scenario in some of the weaker states, West Bengal, MP, Maharashtra, I don't know, Assam maybe.
The disbursement policy has always been the existing customers first. So our priority is always, retaining of existing customers by giving them a higher ticket size. Obviously, even these customers should be non-defaulting customers and should have been paid on time. That policy continues. It will continue. That will be the policy. It will continue right across. But what we do during a crisis period at certain times is we try to convert them 1 or 2 installments earlier so that they have a cash in hand and it's easier for them to pay the installments. That is the only change we make during difficult times. Otherwise, the policy remains the same. In a proportion of new members to existing members will always be more. We are trying to push that more as the years progress. We are trying to push that more to from about 55-45 to about 70-30, and ultimately going towards 80-20. We need a conversion of about 80% and 20% new members. That is the policy which we have. Obviously, when we convert, the ticket sizes are higher, so it pushes up even in terms of the volume. That's the first question. On the what is the second thing you asked?
The collections in some of the weaker states.
Yeah, see the collections. Very ironically, the states which were very weak earlier, the collections are better now. We have excellent collections in right now in Odisha, West Bengal, and areas like that which suffered greatly in the first wave. So it's a mixed, and states like your Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and all that, because of the lockdown, it is reduced. So it has changed now, and it is better because we always feel the original states, if we are doing better now in the second wave, that is a good thing for the company. And that is why our optimism is also based on that particular point, where the stress states of the COVID-1 impact, it is not impacting them economically now, it is more impacting them more humanitarian zones. And we found that among our borrowers, the people who are affected by this are a much, very, very small proportion. And that is the reason why we feel that collection, once the lockdowns are lifted, will definitely bounce back to the earlier levels. If not march immediately, at least to 90+% in June, and then going forward, it will definitely improve more. All these states are doing better now.
Sure. And just one data keeping question. Across the different loan products that Manappuram does, if you can get the stage 2 and restructuring numbers as on date. That's it for my side.
Restructuring, MFI we did around 4% of the book, and vehicle finance around 8%. No other portfolio we have done the restructure.
Sure. And how would the stage 2, so other than MFI and vehicle finance, there is no restructuring? And how would the stage 2 numbers be?
That I'll come back.
Sure. No problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Digant Haria from GreenEdge Wealth. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. So my question is mainly on the microfinance business. So when we started this business in 2014-15, the sector dynamics were very attractive. The overall credit cost used to be 1% across the cycles. But now we have seen that, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, the average credit cost for the whole industry has been 3% every year. We have 2 good years, we have a bad year where we lose almost everything that we made in the previous 2 years. So maybe that the risk perception of microfinance industry has really changed in the last 6-7 years. So Manappuram as a company, do we have anything in mind in terms of rethinking our microfinance strategy, that maybe we want to cap the microfinance loan book at X% of our overall loans, or maybe do safer products in microfinance, which I saw marketing material saying that we'll do gold loans in Ashirwad. So sir, any thoughts on this would be appreciated. So that's my first question.
See, the last 3-4 years were unusual years. One, because of the demon. Demon has hit the microfinance customers the worst than any sector, because they were in the cash economy, then they were relying on the cash economy. So that was a big hit. Then the pandemic. That also hit the microfinance profiles very badly. Even in spite of that, the microfinance industry has come back. So these impacts were at a shorter duration. That is the reason. We believe in the strength of the microfinance industry. It will come back. It will come back to pre-pandemic, demon period very fast. So one thing needs to be taken into account here: the resilience of this business in confronting these pandemics or the challenges like demon, etc., etc. So we believe that microfinance business on a sustainable model can bring forth an ROE of over 20%. So it's a good ROE in any lending business. So we stick to our plan of having microfinance business in our fold and we expect that to be around 10 to 15% of our consolidated portfolio.
So you said 10 to 15, or sorry, I did not hear that properly.
Yeah, 10 to 15% we feel like would be the ideal situation. Yeah, the other businesses are also, secured businesses are also growing. Like gold loan, we expect 10 to 15% growth. Yeah, affordable housing, we expect a higher growth percentage. The commercial vehicle segment and secured MSME business also, we look forward for a higher growth percentage.
Okay, sir. So 10 to 15% is a good number, sir, because as I see now, we are like 6,000 crores out of 26,000 crores, roughly, 23-24% of our loan book is in microfinance. And somehow, this microfinance business brings a lot of volatility in our profitability, because gold is a very steady business. We have exceptional ROEs and, very well run gold loan business. But yeah, so the 10 to 15% cap overall means that, maybe in the next 5 years, gold and microfinance should probably grow at the same rate, right? Because otherwise the proportions won't balance out.
Yeah, it will be like that. See, in gold loan business, so the situation is, because of the situation, one, the cash flow of the gold loan customer file has hit very badly, because they are also mostly from the bottom of the pyramid. Then the other issue was the sudden decline, unusual decline in the gold price. So, see, what has come for auction now in our case is what we have learned at the highest LTV in terms of amount, at the highest gold price. So it has come to the lowest, with auctions have to be conducted at the lowest price during the last 1 year. So the last 6 months, it has to be conducted at that lowest price during the last 6 months. So this has led to a decline in the portfolio, which will be adjusted, which will be corrected in a steady price.
No, sir, yes, I have been tracking you for a long time, and I do know that, we take the hit upfront and other players take around 1 year to take that hit. So that's completely fair. So, sir, my second question was on this gold loan business itself, that, see, in the last 14-15 months, a lot of banks have entered. As you rightly said, a lot of them don't have the back-end infra to auction the gold on time, or, the risk management they're still learning. But sir, one thing looks clear that, maybe some banks will stay in this gold loan business even if those LTV relaxations are not there, and even if the growth is not as good as in the past. So what is our learning, maybe if some of our customers or employees have gone to the banks, or, what is our learning in terms of how do we react to this, new set of players who will probably be there for a longer time now? So that was my second question.
Yeah. See, the banks are there in the gold loan industry over a century, in fact. So why they don't want to scale up? So their approach to these short-term loans for small tickets is very different from a specialized player like an NBFC. So we have the wherewithal to dispense our customers in a matter of 10-15 minutes. Whereas the bank counters are open from 10 o'clock, they are available up to 1 o'clock for gold loan customers. These doesn't suit. Many of our customers redeem during the first week itself. One-fourth of our customers, one-fifth of our customers redeem during the same month. For such a loan of 20,000, 25,000, wasting a day for pledging or release may not work for them. It becomes really too costly for them because they lose 2 days' wage going to a bank. So the bank customers and our customers are different. Now you are very right, absolutely right, when you say recently we have seen an aggression from banks. There are 2 reasons for that. One, their other lending opportunities were limited because of the risk aversion for some time. They had some risk aversion. Any lender had their own risk aversion before taking steps. after the last year's lockdown. So that is one reason. Then they thought of going to the safest business. So the second thing, they had the opportunity to lend up to 90%. And this has helped many of them to refresh their other NPAs. So these are the two reasons for that aggression. Now that 90%, many of these lenders would feel like it was not a good decision, even though there was a regulatory permission. The reason is currently what they carry, their lending amount, the principal itself is higher than the current price of the gold. So I don't think the NBFCs will have a sustainable competition from the banks. And the opportunity for NBFCs is very large because as per our assessment, 75% of the gold loan market is still dominated by the unorganized players.
Right, sir. So thank you so much for this clarification. Sir, wish you all the best for the coming years.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Akshay Ashok from Dalal & Broacha Stock Broking. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for allowing me to ask a question. Yeah, so I just have two questions. This plan to like, are you planning to launch an IPO and what is the timeline? And then I want to know what are the unique customers you have in gold loan, like only people who have taken a gold loan and not taken both a microfinance loan as well as a gold loan. So if you could just, if possible, give the unique customers, what percentage will be unique? For gold loan, it will be very useful. Yeah, thank you.
So the IPO plan for microfinance, this is what you have asked, right?
Yeah, because I read an article that you had made a comment that we are planning to hive off the microfinance business. I just want to know what is the plan and what is the timeline.
See, the capital adequacy of the microfinance business is around 24%.
Okay.
So the parent company, it is around the capital adequacy is around 28%. So the group itself has got a very high capital adequacy. That doesn't mean that we will not go for an IPO. So all will be to protect the interest of stakeholders. Yes, if that valuation is good, the market is very good, we may look at an IPO for the microfinance. But when is the market going to come? I think it may come back sooner than later because the resilience is fully seen. Resilience of the microfinance industry confronting these challenges are now known to the market, not to the investors. So it will be only in the interest of shareholders. We may take a call. Yes, and when required, not for want of capital.
Yeah, but Manappuram will hold controlling stake in Asirvad Microfinance. That is what you think.
Yeah. We entered the microfinance business fully convinced, after fully convinced that it's a good business. It can give us an ROE of around 20%, over 20%.
Okay. Which percentage of unique customers in gold loan business? Like
it may be around 10%.
10%. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Alok Shah from MNCL Group. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Sir, is my voice audible?
Yes.
Sir, thank you for this opportunity and putting across your thoughts. I had a few questions more from what we saw through. One is on client addition. How do we look at that as an overall number for our two core businesses, the gold loan and MFI. You talked about adding close to 3 lakh customers in the gold loan segment in Q4. How is that trajectory looking like as we speak now? And likewise, on the microfinance space, what is it that we are looking at in terms of client addition or the AUM growth?
So client addition, we are looking at a rate of 10 to 15% annually. That is possible, and we have introduced several innovative products like online gold loan, to gold loan at the doorsteps of the customers, etc. And cross-selling options also. So we hope to sustain the customer addition at the rate of 10 to 15%. In client addition in microfinance, I request Mr. Raja to comment on.
See, currently we are at about 25 lakh members. So we are expecting to add about 4 to 5 lakh members this year. Basically, because this year is going to be new member additions might be less this year. We want to retain more of existing customers. But on a normal year, we definitely want to do an addition of about 20 to 25% of the membership on the membership basis.
And when we talk about adding a substantial part of our client base from the existing clients on the MFI, how's the incremental ticket size looking like there?
How is the
incremental ticket size?
Yeah, we have a clear policy of based on cycle-wise ticket size increases, and we follow that. And we are one of the more conservative on the total of ticket size. After 15 years, we have still yet to cross 60,000 rupees. And only this year we were planning to cross 60,000 rupees as a ticket size to the customer. So we made a very judicious increase based on the cycle size and the performance. Each cycle and the performance of the client. So each cycle there is an increase of a certain percentage.
Thank you. May I request Mr. Shah to please rejoin the queue? We have the participants waiting for their
question.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Utsav Gorgirwar from Investec. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, sir. So just want to reconfirm on the microfinance business, you mentioned the outstanding provisions is around 300 crore. Is that correct?
The charge to the 341 crore is the provision. The charge to this year is 300 crore based on all this. And we have also that includes the 30 crore of COVID overlay for the second one.
Okay. And secondly, can you just help us with the PAR 30 and PAR 60 for the top 3 states?
The top 3 states, and you want the bucket wise?
Yeah, for West Bengal and some of the other top 2 states.
I immediately don't have that state wise. I could give it to you later. But the West Bengal is the one of the top states but more in the first and 1 to 30 and 30 to 60, as I said, because the livelihood is affected. So it is in the eastern states only, West Bengal and Orissa and all that.
Okay. So secondly, on the gold business, so in the presentation you highlighted that going forward you focus on the new channels, which is the doorstep business through DSAs. So can you just help us with the how the DSA works in the gold business?
See, DSA means here we call it as business associates. These are our own customers. We are not relying on corporate DSAs also, barring a couple of them. Couple of NBFCs we plan to collect. So other than that, there is no DSA. Our own business associates bring us the customers from their community.
Thank you. May I request Mr. Gogirwar to please rejoin the queue? We have participants waiting for the turn.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Request to the participants, please limit your question to one per participant. The next question is from the line of Bunty Chawla from IDBI Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Just one question. If we see the standalone gross NPA, which has increased to 1.9%, and if we move from standalone part vehicle financing portfolio, where the gross NPAs in fact decline on a sequential basis, which reflect that gold loan AUM NPA has increased substantially. Although we have said that there has been a 400 crore of provisioning, 400 crore of auction has been already done. So if you can share your thought process on that, as well as if you can share the data on this auction, have we have any interest reversal or interest loss on this auction? That's it from my side. Thank you.
See, in gold loan, the NPA is only technical. It is because of one reason only. So, we had the buyers for this, but we were not able to sell because the branches were closed. So we had to classify this as an NPA because of the regulatory reason. It is going to be liquidated in the ensuing month or quarter. That's all. Yeah.
So on the interest loss.
Yeah.
So we are accruing the income as per the accounting policy. So we have accrued on the accounting policy, and that is the reason we were able to maintain stable gross income.
So if you can share interest accrual as of FY21.
So 716 crores.
Okay. Thank you. That's it from my side, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhijit Tibrewal from Reliance Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. I'm just referring to your slide number 23, where you have kind of spelled out that about 5 billion was withdrawal-related decline in your AUM, and about 23 billion was because of a decline in gold prices. I mean, excuse me, this sounds like a stupid question, but if you could just explain the difference between the two.
So, we added a lot of new customers during the quarter, but because of the lesser LTV, the eligible loan amount will be lesser than the earlier quarters. So that is what we try to explain. What is the price impact and what is the LTV adjustments? Our LTV was at 62%, has gone to 71%. These are because of the decline in price. Because in the past, if the customer has to avail 10,000 rupees, he has to bring maybe 4 grams of gold. But now, if at the time of a decline in gold price, he may be coming with the same quantity of gold, but the eligible loan amount will be less. So this reverse will happen at the time of increase in gold price. So that is what we explained in this slide.
Okay. And my last question was, I mean, while you have suggested that you have auctioned about 4 billion or rather 1 ton of gold for, I think in quantum terms or other amount, currency terms, about 400 crores. Can we rightfully assume that whatever loan disbursements that you did, maybe in the months of August and September, which is Q2, all of that has either been recognized as an NPA or have actually been auctioned off now? In other words, is there a proportion of the book where you would have done disbursements where gold prices were at its peak and they are still sitting in your book now?
The gold price, when it was peak, yeah, these were auctioned.
Okay, all right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Vidisha. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you everyone for joining the call, and I would really thank the management for giving us an opportunity. We can now disconnect the lines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nandakumar, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Antique Stock Broking, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.